Oh, Japan. Every gamer's wish is to go to Japan and game hunt. Growing up, I was obsessed with Japanese culture. I think everything is beautiful about it. The gardens, the buildings, the culture. And of course, growing up, I loved anime. I loved Japanese decor in my bedroom. So it's only natural as a game collector that along the way I would pick up a few Japanese consoles and games here and there. So I wanted to make a video kind of highlighting those games that are in my collection and kind of showcase what I've acquired along the way. Now it's not a terrible amount, but it is kind of fun the way that I was able to get these. Did you know that somebody other than Nintendo made and released a console to play Nintendo games on? That is right, the twin Famicom made by Sharp. This was a combination of the original Famicom system and the disk system attachment that they ended up making and blending it all into one convenient unit. Now these bad boys are notorious for the floppy disk drives to fail and the belts to go bad. And unfortunately that's what's happened to mine. Mine has failed. I have replaced the belt. I have tried different things to get it to work and I'm not quite there. So I'm gonna have to pay somebody to fix this one for me. I'm a tinkerer. I can kind of repair a couple of consoles here and there if it's something not too complicated. I have replaced the belt, but beyond that point, I think it's gonna be on someone else's hands. However, I do have some cartridge game and that part of it works perfectly fine. How I got this console, believe it or not, once again in this random valley town of Oregon, was at a thrift store or a pawn shop. It was a pawn shop. And it was there for quite a while. Nobody was buying it. They had, I think, like a price tag of like $200 and it came with a console, few games, and the right hookups. And around my birthday is when we finally decided to pull the trigger and add this bad boy to my collection. I would definitely say, thinking back, I would have haggled a little bit more because taking a chance on that disk drive not working, which knowing what I know now, I definitely would have haggled a little bit with them, but ultimately I'm happy to have it in my collection, and these are some of the games that came with it, and a lot of them came with the boxes. It was really cool to see some of these come into my collection. Dragon Quest II in its original box. Now, I haven't really played a lot of the Dragon Quest games, and I really would like to get into them. Ultimately, I do not think I'll be playing this game in Japanese because I do not speak Japanese. So an adventure game where it's an RPG, I think I'm gonna have to pass on this one, but I do like being able to plug this in and kind of play around with the original way the game was supposed to be played. I'm not even gonna begin to pretend like I know what this says, but this is a very crappy karate game. I played the very beginning of it and it is not great. It reminds me mildly of Flash games, and yeah, that is pretty much all I have to say about this guy, but it was cool to once again get the box. My all-time favorite of the 3 Mario games for the NES is Super Mario 3. This game is amazing. It deserves a top spot in everybody's playlist, and obviously you can play through this on the Famicom because you do not need to know Japanese in order to know what's going on. And it's a lot of fun. I probably own Mario 3 in like 4 different varieties and I don't care. It's a lot of fun. Also came with Dragon Quest III. I'm starting to wonder who on earth had this item in the middle of nowhere and sold it to a pawn shop, and could they read Japanese? I wonder if using Japanese games would be a fun and easy way to learn Japanese. I probably will not be taking that route. I would rather do something else, like, I don't know, play my games. But it is pretty cool to think that somebody owned this prior and actually played with this unit and understood what the hell was going on. Dragon Ball 3, this is a card battling game, so understanding what is going on is not really my strength. Now, ultimately you could use Google Translate, hover your phone over it. I think that takes a little bit of the fun out of the game, considering that majority of these games I believe you can just get on the Nintendo Entertainment System. But like I said, all these games came with the bundle for the Famicom, so I ended up with them, and so I get to enjoy looking at them and periodically plugging them in and trying to play them again, even though I have no idea what the hell is going on. Dragon Ninja. This one actually looks like a pretty fun game. Now, of course, it's got the NES hard tendencies, and I definitely noticed a trend with the NES and the time frame, because ninjas must have been a really hot thing back then. I remember it being obsessed with them, kind of like medieval stuff, but in any case, a couple of ninja games for the Famicom. I've got like 3 of them in this bundle, and so you can definitely argue that in the 80s and early 90s, ninjas were definitely in. I'll say my Japanese is pretty much limited to
Wabaki.
And
Nani?
the Japanese GameCube. I ended up getting one for Christmas quite a few years ago that my sister was able to get for me all the way from Japan. It was still wrapped in Japanese newspaper. The GameCube, the Spice Orange GameCube, was something that I've always wanted in my collection, and I was lucky enough to add it to my collection actually quite a few years ago. When I first got it though, it didn't have any games. And what's weird is locally, in the middle of like the valley towns of Oregon, somebody posted a bunch of Japanese GameCube games, now without the cases, for only $30. So let's go through some of the games that I was able to pick up for $30 to add to my Japanese GameCube collection. And I didn't go much further outside of this, but let's get started. One of my all-time favorite games, Animal Crossing. No, wait. Animal Forest. It's called Animal Forest in Japan, and they actually released it on the N64 before the GameCube. But it's really cool to have this in my collection, and I'm pretty sure I have a couple of items that are able to connect to the internet. Now, I don't recall if Animal Crossing was ever available to play on the internet, but that would be extremely cool. Let's insert some research right here.
Oh man, guys, was I completely off base with this internet thing? Let's get into it. Excuse me if I pronounce this wrong. Dotsubu no Mori is an expanded version of Animal Crossing released on the Nintendo GameCube exclusively in Japan in 2003. In addition to all of its content for Animal Crossing, it featured new villagers, items, gameplay elements, and had functionality with the e-reader for the Game Boy Advance. Absolutely no joke, you guys, this might be my new favorite game in my Japanese GameCube collection. This disc that says 2003 on it was a GameCube e-catalog. So this would have like an interactive disc where there would be a bunch of promotional items, and it would be bundled with a couple of games that you could get this from. But it had a playable demo for Viewful Joe, and trailers for Tales of Symphonia, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. This promotional disc cataloged like 115 games that you could go through and read about. And it also had like a internet browser feature, which obviously I cannot access. But demo discs are awesome, and this one is amazing because it's basically like a timestamp back to 2003. And I was able to look through some of these trailers, play a little bit of the demo, and if I was a kid in 2003 and had a disc like this, because we had demo discs growing up, but ours were typically like, I don't know, like a few games here and there, but this is like a whole freaking catalog. It's like a magazine on a disc. How could you beat that? This is freaking awesome. I might do this already myself, but if you guys want a deep dive of this demo disc and me doing some research with some like Google Translate, please let me know, because this disc is fascinating.
What's really cool about the games that I got in the GameCube bundle is there are like AAA titles. I'm talking like Mario Party 4, Mario Party 5, Pokemon Coliseum, Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, Animal Crossing. Like, the selection for this was pretty cool, and I have a couple of discs that are a little bit foreign to me, and I'm not sure if those were like online stuff, but it was a very good bundle, and paying $30 back then, and I think even now, I still feel like I got a pretty good deal. So, I want to show you some of the game footage of some of these games that I have.
One of my first GameCube games that was up is Dragon Ball Z Budokai, which I ended up playing the regular version at a young age, so I'm really glad this is part of the collection because I get to see the Japanese side of it. But this game is a really fun fighting game, and if you enjoyed the Dragon Ball Z saga, especially around the Cell part of it, you'll enjoy this game a lot. Naruto for the Japanese GameCube has made me appreciate this game as a fighting game itself, and it actually seems like a lot of fun, so I'm gonna have to give this one a go. Pokemon Colosseum, one of the most amazing branch outs that Pokemon Company ever let anyone do, ever. From my understanding, the Japanese version does have a little bit of extra content that we never got, and that's something I'd like to dive into a little bit later. I do also have Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness for the Japanese GameCube, but I haven't even played the American one all the way through, so we'll have to put that one on hold.
Have you guys ever done something that you truly regret? I'm about to talk about some of the N64 titles that I own for my regular N64. In the regular N64, you can just take the plastic piece inside and drill out the little stoppers, and you can play your Japanese games on your N64. That is not the mistake I made. I decided way back in the day that I was going to customize a perfectly fine N64. So I spray painted it, and I took the label off, and I added lights to it, and I thought it was so cool, and I ended up screwing up the label on the front of the N64 royally. It doesn't even stay on it. Now, mind you, because I did this so many years ago, the paint job isn't that bad, but I wholeheartedly regret doing this. And I would like to know in the comments down below, would you guys reshell this thing? Would you try repainting it? I'm not sure what to do with it. I just hide it in the back of my closet in shame. But on to the N64 games. I only own 2, Mario Party 3 and Pokemon Stadium 2. And the primary reason I got these games is because I did want to play these. I don't need to know Japanese to play these games, and I didn't want to spend the money on the American versions of them. Now, ultimately, I did end up finding Pokemon Stadium 2 later on for a pretty reasonable price to add to my collection, so now I have both of them. Mario Party 3, though, I don't know if... I think I might have just bought that at Siege. But I love playing Japanese Mario games, and the reason being is when you have friends over and maybe you're knocking back a couple of drinks, it is hilarious playing Japanese Mario Party, because you kind of have to all figure out what the hell you're doing. And if you're like me and you've played the games a lot, I'm kind of at an advantage, but it's funny watching everybody being like, what is that saying? What are we supposed to do? And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't speak Japanese. And it's just really fun to have a game party night where you're just throwing out these Japanese Mario Party games and people just don't know what's going on.
If you want to play Super Famicom games, you can play them on your regular Super Nintendo. However, you either have to alter the plastic that is inside blocking the cartridge from going in, or you need to buy a 3D replacement piece for it if you do not want to alter your regular hardware.
And how could I almost forget? Pokemon Green. I found this in a random card shop, just shopping around with a friend, and I immediately jumped on the opportunity to get it. I think I got it for $20. And what's really cool about this game to me is I remember way back in the day when I was playing Pokemon Yellow, watching the series, collecting the figures, I remember there being rumors about a Pokemon Green. And because the internet really wasn't quite there yet, it literally just sounded like a myth. Ultimately, I think later on in life, I just came to the conclusion that was just a lie that somebody was telling. And it turns out that Pokemon Green was in fact real. It was a game out there that people were able to buy. It was the very first release. Now, ultimately, did they do things to fix it and tidy it up? Yes. Does it make it the best one in the series? Probably not. Can I play through the game? Once again, probably not without assistance from Google Translate, but I love having this in my collection because every time I look at it, it reminds me of the schoolyard rumors and the different things that you would hear about games, and it turned out this one was true. We just didn't have all the information.
One thing you have to know about Japanese collecting is that the power conversion is not the same, and so if you're going to play Japanese games, make sure you get a converter and do your research.
Hopefully you enjoyed this kind of homage to my Japanese game collection. Some of you are probably thinking, why do you have Japanese games if you don't understand them? I like looking at the art, I like appreciating the consoles, and to be honest, it makes me happy, so I don't really have anything outside of that, but I think it's really cool to collect for for games that were released outside of your region and looking at the box art and enjoying what was offered and what other people were able to experience, even if you don't fully understand it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I have been enjoying making these videos and trying to be a little bit more consistent. I hope you're really enjoying the content. Let me know in the comments down below, do you own any Japanese games at all? Or any other games that are in other languages? Has anyone used these games to learn like a new language? Let me know, guys. But thank you all so much for watching. And don't forget, there's a pixelated world waiting out there for you.